we go on Wednesday, the 26th of February 2025, with yet another edition of a Podful of Saints. With three of us here, three staunch supporters who go to every game. Oh, hang on. Anyway, with myself, David Tavener, the laughing Lee Wood for some reason.
David, Jacob, everybody. Yes, good evening.
Jake Ellacott, are you laughing as well, Jake?
Always, when you're around Dave, whether it's your opinions or your stats, or it's all very amusing, isn't it? Hello, everyone.
Anyway, last Saturday's crowd, 2,648, would have been 2,650 if all the pod team had turned up. Right, you two will have heard about the game. You'd have spoken to people and whatnot, so you'd be...
We thought it was a given, Tabs. We thought it was a given, mate.
It was.
Guaranteed 3 points. That's what I was told.
As our predictions suggested, Lee, it was a given, unfortunately. Anyway, I thought it was similar to when we played them in the FA Cup at Arsenal Ladies Ground, 2 or 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was. We competed really well until going behind. And once they got that first goal, you just felt it was all over. We got 3 in 7 minutes. And like last time, earlier this season when we played them in the league, what was it, 3 in 13 minutes when Kwasi Appiah got a hat-trick. Similar sort of thing. So although we played well in that first half and level up until 43rd minute on Saturday, we never really hurt them. Our crossing was poor. It really was poor. We got into great positions, and from both flanks, it was just nothing. And I'm not sure we've had enough men in the middle anyway to take advantage of them. We seem to have just one up front. I know both Ollie Davis and Aidan Delsh were up front, but it seemed like we always only had one up in the box. Just a perception, probably wrong. And because of that, I say we never really hurt them. So Wood were fairly comfortable, despite not being at their best. And once they got that first goal, a scrappy one, a corner comes in, a slight deflection in front of MJ, and then Charlie O'Connor stabs it in. And we're chasing the game then. And against a side like Boreham Wood, whereas we've been a bit goal shy, we know that this season. What was that? Our, 4th or 6th successive game without scoring in the first half, at least that many. So we were chasing it, and we can't afford to do that against sides like Boreham Wood. We've got to get out on front. But overall, I'd say first half it was a decent performance, and we came in strong again in the latter part, but by then we're 3-0 down. If we were 3-0 up and the side finished strongly against us, I'd say, okay, fair enough, we don't mind. We've got 3 goals, we've got 3 points. So we scored 1 in that time. Zane Banton on his 299th game, not the 300 like the nonsense the club put out. And it was just a consolation, unfortunately. Great strike. And many people actually felt that Zane was the best player on the pitch. He is in fine form at the moment. There's no two ways about it. Unfortunately, we needed some others. It didn't quite happen. Right, from what you two have heard, does any of that sound familiar?
Yeah, there was a sort of a slight debrief in the pub prior to the Aveley game last night. And I think the general consensus was that if they could have got to half-time on level sort of terms, things may have been a bit different. It was just that goal before half-time that sort of just knocked the stuffing out of us. And then what happened is, rather than regroup and sort of come out again, Wood hit us really early in the second half, and from there on in, didn't really recover from that. Spoke to a few fellas on Saturday afterwards, but again, they wanted to reiterate just how well we played. But again, without any particular end product or cutting edge. You don't really mind the endeavour, but again, it's just the productivity and, just that final ball, which seems to be lacking on Saturday, sadly.
What about you, Jake? What did you pick up from it?
Yeah, I think that's fairly similar. And I know you referred to the cup game a couple of years ago, but even to me, it felt like the game early in the season, didn't it? For a lot of that game, we were all right, weren't we? We were trying to keep our own, but then Boreham Wood just switched, didn't they? And it sounded like that on Saturday, unfortunately. The Boreham Wood, this is a good Boreham Wood team. I think, last week we talked about we did have a chance, but in reality, there is a gulf between the teams in terms of budget and quality and players and everything around that. We know they've got a very big budget. We know they're in a title race. It looks like it's going to go all the way to the wire. There's a lot of teams spending. Boreham Wood are. And unfortunately, I think that just proved to be the case on Saturday. We played well. again, there were some positives. We're looking decent. It's great that Zane is starting to get more involved in goals again. I think if we are to stay up, we need other players contributing as well, along with the forwards. There's positives there, but in reality, I think it was always going to be a bit of not of a free hit, but go out there, see what happens. And, Boreham Wood showed their quality in the end. And, it's nothing to be ashamed of. I know it's a local derby. To be honest, it probably means more to them than it maybe means to us in some regards. But we move on quickly, don't we? And we move on to much more important games that were coming up at the time.
It's funny, Jake, in your life, I don't suppose we've ever been the top club out of the two. The best we could hope for was
No.
level pegging. All right, we did have a season in the Conference National, which you were at. But generally, they've had the upper hand. I mean, when I was growing up as a kid, watching it in the early 70s, Wood were a Fenian League, lower level club, and they loved to beat us as the big boys. Now they've won 9 of the last 10. And all the last 5 league games between the two clubs, and it's usually a couple of goal margin at least each time. We've got a lot of catching up to do in that respect. Ian Culverhouse, after the game, he mentioned first 2 goals, set pieces in effect. The second one was a long throw by Chris Bush, so technically a set piece. And it was like the 2 Hemel goals, wasn't it? Both from set pieces. Neither of the Hemel free kicks should have been given. Having now watched the highlights, I hadn't by the time we did the podcast last week. Felt over time they were poor decisions. Now having seen them, they were very poor decisions. So would Hemel have won that game without those 2? Anyway, there's 4 goals in 2 games from set pieces. And where we've got quite a large central defence, that's a worrying trend. There's some switching off going there. Maybe not blaming the central defenders. The rest of the team not picking up players.
Yeah, I think it's a definite concern the last 2 games, as when we're recording this, because there have been chances created for the opposition. I think up until Hemel, I thought we'd looked all right from defending set pieces in recent weeks and months. We looked like we'd learnt our lesson, but we've sort of gone back to maybe some old habits. And I think teams have very quickly latched onto that as well. I think teams probably saw what Hemel did, and they did the same. And even at Aveley, which we'll get onto, I thought they caused just 1 or 2 little scares. Definitely some concern there, and definitely a bit of work needed. And we know this division is quite physical now, and we know we'll come up against teams who will want to cause problems with set pieces. So definite worry there. It's a shame Boreham would exploit it again, but it's good to know that you agree, Dave, that we were robbed against Hemel, and I think that game should definitely be replayed.
Again? How much are we going to charge this time to get in?
3rd time's a charm.
Yeah. Mentioned Chris Bush with the throw for the second goal. He was back from suspension, and you can see why he's suspended. He's pulling all the time. He's fouling all the time. But the blooming match officials, they're not bothered nowadays. Defenders get away with murder, and yet you blow on someone's ear, and down they go, holding their face and whatnot. Oh, it's all hell lets loose. Oh, it's just ridiculous anyway. I'm glad I found something to moan about. But beyond that, the attendance, magnificent attendance. Say only 2 short of 2,650. I think that exceeded expectations, didn't it? And I heard a story. I don't know if you got anything on it. 150 Wood fans were refused admission because they filled up their little area we gave them.
I mean, it did exceed expectations, certainly from mine, because look, Wood don't historically travel well. And I think this sort of harks back to what Jake was saying. This probably meant a bit more to them than it did to us, given our opposite situation regarding the league table. I mean, let's get this out of the way. The reason I wasn't at the game on Saturday is because I was at Twickenham to watch the rugby. And on the way to the station, I saw a load of Boreham Wood fans getting off the train and pouring out the Robin Hood and pouring out of the horn. Absolute state of them. But to be fair, that was before the game. So fair play to them. I mean, they don't travel well. You barely get any at home.
That's right.
Unless they're playing us. But fair play to them. I mean, they came out in a Sunday best. Obviously, come to a nice part of Hertfordshire for the day, and they went away with all 3 points. So honestly, fair play to them because they played good football. And you joke about it, Tabs. You spoke quite candidly about the gulf between us and them over the past 10, 20 years even. But the fact of the matter is, mate, it's all well and good. You can do that when you've got a bit of money behind you from a Premier League team. So would there have been that gap and that gulf if that hadn't have happened for Wood? Who knows? But ultimately, they deserved the victory on Saturday. Fair play to them. They came in numbers. They were quite raucous on the streets of St Albans. So I dare say they were even more so on the terraces as well. So, well, look, they're going to be challenging. And we knew that. And touch something on what Jake said there. To me, it probably was more of a free hit than most people thought because, did we expect anything? Not really. Hence our predictions from last week. So we played well. We gave an account of ourselves. Was it a particularly good one? But let's save our good accounts for the games that actually matter this season.
Yeah, I would say overall, it was a pretty good account. I think most City supporters were quite happy. Just the failings you've mentioned there, we've all mentioned the other end of the pitch where it mattered, getting the goals, and then at vital times at the back. But over the 90 minutes, it's probably a pretty pleasing performance. It's just those few spells on certain individual things, it's cost us big time. And again, we've got no gloating rights whatsoever. I don't know. What I can say, well, they might win the league. They can still win the league, obviously. But I would think they're a blooming awkward side to beat in a playoff in a one-off game. I think that might be their best route of going up. We shall see. Right, any more to add on that, or can we get rid of that game? Okay. Yeah, I think get rid of it.
Just some praise for Zane's goal. It was a great finish, I thought.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Beautifully struck. I had that on my video until somebody in front of me decided to stick his head up. That's the trouble when you get big crowds. It's much better Tuesday. I gave it as 1,008. Possibly generous. Right, on to Tuesday and Aveley at home. Right, wait.
We were there. We saw you. Great.
Yeah, we had to send somebody to pick you up. You didn't know where the ground was. It's great. You actually see the game now because there's not so many people there, which is handy. It was actually 7 successive games we've gone without scoring in the first half, which is a terrible statistic. And it's been repeated again and again. And it's only, we actually scored twice in that first half last night, of course. It's only the second league game where we scored more than once in the first half, which explains why we've been in a mess we've been in all season. We're just not putting sides under pressure in the first half. I mean, getting goals. And the only other time we did it was, of course, away to Aveley. When we were 3-2 up at half-time, then Harry Wheeler turned up and gave his half-time speech, and second half didn't go to plan.
It all went tits up, didn't it, after that? Good old Harry. Brilliant.
Right, I don't know what you thought. We'd heard bad reports about Aveley, about how bad they were. We didn't see it in the first game when they got 6 and could have had more. They were woeful last night. They had a couple of players in on loan, youngsters from QPR. I don't know if that helped them or not, but that said, they had chances. Michael Johnson made a good save, had a couple cleared offline. We had chances blocked as well. I think Jake may have alluded to this earlier. So they had chances, and I don't go along with Ian Culverhouse's view that we were brilliant and all that sort of stuff. We weren't last night. First half, we were on top. Yes, we did have a better of it, and we were at last creating chances, which is good. And Shaun got a couple of them. But the second half, we were woeful. We really were. We went off a boil completely until getting Reuben's excellent goal in the last minute. Again, I thought the problem early on last night was the crosses. Until the 20th minute, James Sweet finally got one right. Saved the ball from Alfie Bendel. First time ball in, and a classic Shaun Jeffers header. His first goal in a starting appearance and on home soil since the end of October. Who thought we'd ever say that about Shaun Jeffers? Incredible. But there we go. So 2-0 up at half-time with a penalty. It was handball. One of the new boys from QPR handled James Sweet's shot. And it looked comfortable, didn't it? But the second half, I thought we went off a boil. Now, you two were there. What did you make of it?
We went off the boil, yes. But you wouldn't have... Look, they've got a bit of pride about them, Aveley. They weren't just going to sit there and roll over. You would have expected them to come out and have some sort of reaction in the second half. I thought we made some unnecessary choices at the back, which put us under pressure a little bit more.
Yeah.
But that said, you would expect Aveley to come out and have a go. You know, as poor as Aveley were, you've got to give them some credit in trying to force their way back into the game. I said this on our chat earlier on, didn't I, Jake? That I think you can see Aveley. I wouldn't say they were on top. They had some good chances, but I think Culverhouse was trying to give the team that was out there enough time to get another foothold back into the game and take it away from Aveley. And it wasn't really until the substitutions came on, your Smiths and your Wyatts, etc., that it really injected a bit more quality and pace into the game. And then we were able to get that third goal, but ultimately take the game away from Aveley, because what we were adding in terms of the additions from the bench was another injection of pace and speed and endeavour that really did Aveley had no answer to, really.
I thought you're giving Aveley credit for coming at us, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
They probably did. They probably upped it a bit. I'm not sure they got the quality to do it, but I thought we helped them. Our distribution was absolutely woeful. Two players in particular, I'm not going to name them, but they had absolutely shockers in that second half. And other clearances were panicky. There was no need for it. Composure was needed. But we had that 2-goal cushion, and that saw us through. Your turn, Jake.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I thought first half we looked pretty decent. And that man, Shaun Jeffers, much maligned by some, written off by others, but he can still score an odd goal, can't he, when he gets a bit of service? And that is great to see. And I think that could be absolutely critical in our running now. But yeah, first half we were right. Second half, I expected Aveley to come out, and they did. And like I agree, Lee, I thought we played into our own trouble. Unfortunately, there's a spell of about 5-10 minutes there where almost every time we tried to get rid of the ball, we kicked it to a bloke in blue and some sort of reddish colour with their shorts, which was an interesting choice. And that just allowed them to keep coming at us. And I also thought, even first half, thought the set pieces again caused a little bit of trouble. But we held on, didn't we? We showed a bit of fight, a clean sheet, however it comes. Don't really care. I'm glad we got it. And great thing is, like Lee again hinted at, is options off the bench, a bit of depth. Even though the game wasn't quite going our way, we were able to change it and take back a bit of control before Aveley got themselves reduced to 10 men.
Yeah, the one who got sent off, Hamza Semakula, formerly with Hendon. I can't find anything. But with a name like that, he must be related to Paul Semakula, who's played for us. He didn't play many games, but he was a guy with a great engine. He could run around the British Isles. He could just run and run and run. I don't know what he's like with the ball, but he can half run. Yeah, he had to go last night, unfortunately. 2 bookings. He can't really complain. That didn't really make any difference. It was, 87 minutes, but we did get that third goal. Reuben Wyatt. Now, what was he doing out there? According to the club's marvellous media this season, which you get so many people complaining, more people coming up last night every week. And I know you've had messages as well. We mentioned it before we started. It's just non-stop criticism of the club's social output at the moment. It's poor, and it put out the other day that Reuben Wyatt left the club, gone back to Northampton Town. Lo and behold, there he is on the bench, comes on, scores an absolutely cracking goal, which is what we opened this week's podcast with. What a great goal.
Oh,
Goal of the season?
Isn't it? Ooh.
Contender.
There's not been many others, has there, to be a contender?
Slim pickings, fellas.
Yeah. But it was nice to see him out there. I say, Dave, when we saw the team sheet, one of the team sheets, and Mr. Wyatt was on the bench. Mr. Wyatt was on the bench. I think we were all very surprised, weren't we, Lee, in the pub, thinking, thought the team sheet said he'd left yesterday. So there you go. So that was nice. And what a way, whatever happened there, what a way to reintroduce yourself to the fans again. An absolutely superb hit. And I have to say, behind the goal, It was in. The minute he left his boot, it was in. It was absolutely brilliant from behind the goal. Great celebrations. And it was the icing on top of maybe not the perfect performance, but a very important performance given the results around us.
Do you think Shaun's scoring twice in the first half because he's worried about substituting himself? Because according to that wonderful team sheet, it also had him on the bench. It happens week after week. We get used to it.
Okay, well, no, hang on. Let's address this because I think it's easy for us to put the boot in, right? And it's quite clear the club are struggling for volunteers. But I think in terms of your media, on your match day media, I've known people at clubs to have been sacked for making, because the thing is, it's the first drive of media coverage that you get to promote the game is the team sheet on the day of the game. It's really important, especially when, you know, we've got a global media footprint or whatever it is that you claim to have had. It is vital. And when you don't get it right, fair enough, everyone makes mistakes, but it's a weekly occurrence now.
Yeah.
And it is just so, I don't think the people who were working in the boardroom, you know, they don't get it. It's hugely detrimental to the image of the club. You've got to get these things right. You know, they can't alter what happens on the pitch, but they can certainly improve the perception of the club off of it. And just getting stuff like putting the same player on twice. I mean, I think there was one game this season that had 3 different team sheets before the game. You know, this isn't on. And it's not us criticising you for critique's sake. It's important because the thing is, it is a perception thing, and it shouldn't happen. And it is embarrassing. It's amateur. And quite frankly, when we are struggling to make an impact at this level this season, we need just to have everyone just doing their jobs correctly. And that includes on and off the pitch as well.
You got a thing with the stats as well in a programme. I've given up looking at recent games because the first half of the season they were shocking. Something like 26 out of 30 players were wrong, and saying it's Zane Banton's 300th game last Saturday. It was his 299th. Okay, one game out, but apparently the club uses external sources. They don't even get. They've got a full-time secretary, a part-time secretary, a match secretary. They've got a full-time media people, and yet they still can't keep their own records. But you go on the club's website and you add up all Zane's appearances on there, and that would have made last Saturday's 295th. So where did they suddenly get the 300 from?
If only there was a young, dashing, approachable club historian that they could come up to and say, hey. But you joke, right? We joke, we make light of it because there's nothing else that we can do. You know. Go on.
You made a point, Lee, and I'll put it in my notes earlier this week. These are official statements and documents put out by the club, so they've got to be accurate. They can't keep making mistakes week after week after week.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's no look. I do this for a living for multiple professional clubs, and if I was to make those sorts of mistakes that are being made by our club, the club that we love, it just wouldn't bear thinking about. Seriously, it is a really important, you know, especially when you get things like players' names wrong. You've got opposition wrong when you're putting out like your match day tweets. I know that it's different in the heat of the game because, you know, it's fast paced and sometimes you do struggle to keep up. But get players' names right, get the team sheet right first and foremost, get the opposition right. You know, they're putting you put the wrong opposition on the front covers of the programmes. Just as a whole, this season, the media output has been shocking. It's been absolutely horrendous and it needs to be addressed.
I've got a thing here from someone who's complaining about the same thing we're saying there about these basic mistakes. Why are we always kept in the dark about injuries? Like it said for Ken Charles last night, it remains a doubt. Here we are, comes off a bench last few minutes and gets a run around. No hint of that, how close he was to playing. But also, serious point here from this one. Would you now start Jeffers again Saturday? I think you would do, wouldn't you, after getting 2 goals?
Yeah, I think so. Go on, Lee.
Well, no, I was just going to say, mate. I mean, I think if the fact is, his hand's been forced because of Harrison Smith's injury. You know, the fact is that if Harrison Smith was fit, probably he'd start 9 times out of 10 for the remainder of the season. Shaun, take away his goals last night. I actually thought his interlink play was fantastic. His work rate was excellent. He really put the back line of Aveley under immense pressure. His link-up play to the midfield runners was really good as well. He had his head up, you know, which wasn't always the case. And he looked a bit stronger. I don't know. I think he's finally got over that virus that he had. He looked like the Shaun Jeffers of old. Okay. The quality of the opposition probably wasn't up to much. Let's give him that. But he's still got to do the goods. And the header, clinical. Penalty, he stuck it away, which is not what we can say always over the last month or so. And he still looked dangerous. He had a couple of pot shots in the first half as well. Second half, he fell away, which is probably inevitable. But that's when you have the introduction of your likes of, your Harrison Smith and whatnot, and he can come on and do that cameo for half an hour. And to be fair, if that's the way that we're going to use Smith going forward now for the rest of the season, he still looked dangerous, Jake, didn't he? He still looks as though he can bring players into the game. And in terms of late additions, he's a good one to have.
I'll come to you in a second, Jake. Getting back to the penalties, that was Shaun Jeffers' 23rd successful penalty. He's missed 2. He's now our 3rd highest scorers. Bobby Charles scored 24, missed 6, and Ian Whitehead scored 44 and missed 7. And the only other player to score more than 20 was Martin Duffield, but Duff's also missed 6. So if you're starting with Jeffers against Saturday, Jake, would you go with Ken Charles if they decide he's fit enough? Or do you stick with Aidan Dausch?
Aidan Dausch, for me, to be honest. I think Shaun, as you say, not probably fully fit in the minute, and that's fine. And to be honest, I think Shaun isn't the same player in terms of his pace. I think we know that. He struggled in recent times. But when you've got a willing runner alongside him, like your Aidan Dausch or anyone else that could do that job, I think that gives Shaun that bit more space to maybe not be necessarily the man with the pace up front he used to be. Instead, he can sit on that penalty spot in and around the box and wait for a good ball in. And that's exactly what happened while you've got someone else like Aidan Dausch doing a bit more of the legwork. I think you've got to start him on Saturday. After that, this could be the momentum now. This could be it. We've sort of all wanted the season having that moment of bright spark for Shaun going, right, let's kick on. This could be it. It might not be, but it could be. And again, he is a threat. Whatever happens. I mean, that header, who else in the squad is scoring a header like that? Maybe Ken Charles scored a good one at Maidstone, but apart from that, I don't think anyone else is. And it was just great to see. So I think you've got to try and give him a run now. And like Lee says, we've got other options. I think Ken Charles will still be a little while away with the fitness. He hasn't played in, month and a half, 2 months. Harrison Smith being managed, but even when Harrison Smith came on, he had 1 moment where he turned past about 3 different defenders on the edge of the box. He's still got that ability. We just don't need him to break down. So, but yeah, it's another positive, wasn't it? After an important win.
Saturday is going to be fascinating down at Harden Jewish Park, home of Chippenham Town. When they came to Clarence Park, I thought they were one of, if not the best side we've seen down there this season. They look really good. They're very good at time wasting as well. But they didn't kick on after that. But they're in a bit of form at the moment. 5 wins and a draw from the last 8. So Gary Horgan's side is doing well. It's probably one of the toughest ones we could have. Or if they have one of the off days, which they're quite capable of. We've seen their results this season. We could keep our little mini recovery going. Was it 3 wins in the last 5? 9 points from 5, which is untold for us this season. And it really has given us a genuine hope of getting out, hasn't it? We're looking. I think you fancy our chances at the moment.
Yeah, after Welling and Salisbury games, I don't think any of us thought we'd be here a couple of weeks later, just 1 point off safety, did we, with a game in hand? And I think a lot of us, especially after Salisbury, a lot of fans on their way home thought, right, have we blown that? But we've shown great resilience, and Ian Culverhouse and Paul Bastock, I think they know what they're doing. They've been in this situation before. They're good management team. They're managing the squad well. We're in a good position. But I think Chippenham on Saturday is going to be really, really tough. They're one of the informed teams, aren't they?
Yeah, they certainly are. Change our chances there, Lee?
I do. And if you look back a few weeks ago, we were 9 points adrift, and now we're a point within safety with a far superior goal difference as well. We've still got to play Enfield and Weymouth, and it's really weird because other than Eastbourne and I think Dorking, the rest of the fixtures are what I would say, interesting, winnable. Chippenham, yes, we're on a little bit of a run, and we shouldn't go there with any hesitation. But I think we've got to be really, really careful, because I think there's a frailty that we've seen at the back just started to creep into our game over the last sort of few weeks.
Yeah.
That's got to be looked at. That's got to be dealt with. And I'm sure that Paul Bastock and Ian Culverhouse as goalkeeper and defender, respectively, are going to be looking at that with some great intent. But yes, I think you've got to look at these games now, Taz, because we're sort of slowly creeping our way, and it's within our hands. And it'll be really, really cruel for us to sort of have a good, important win at home to Aveley, and then just sort of go undo all of our good work by getting stuff away to Chippenham. What I would say is that there's teams around us who are, they're losing their mind a little bit. Bath are getting dragged back into this. Enfield have got absolutely stuffed the last 2 games. So they went on a little bit of a recovery, and then lo and behold, they get a bit cocky and they get shafted, like, shipping goals left, right and centre. So we can't be sort of doing that. We've got to really look at ourselves carefully. And I tell you what, mate, a point isn't the worst thing in the world on Saturday.
I'm going to ask you for your predictions in a minute for 4 clubs going down. I would write off Aveley and Weymouth. Sadly, enjoyed Weymouth this year, walking around there. That's fan over there. Enfield Town, I think you mentioned 2 defeats. I think they've lost 3 in a row now, Lee. Their bubble well and truly burst after those 4 straight wins. And not only losing, but they are conceding goals as well. Again, and not going down by the odd goal like we've been doing most of the season. And Welling United, I heard the phrase the other day, but they are going to spend whatever it takes to get out of trouble. Well, with 1 win in about 10 games, that's money's not being used very wisely at the moment. And you would think at the moment, they're the 2 we could climb above. I know we're stuck in 22nd for ages. I disagree with you about Bath. I think they're going to get out of it. A good win for them last night against Salisbury. And I think Salisbury are the only other one we can realistically catch at the moment. Them and Welling, it's going to be one of those 2 going into the bottom 4, I think. Anyone else want to expand on that?
Hopefully it's not us. No, I do agree. I think Enfield and Welling both in tricky positions. Welling, we know Rod Stringer can work as magic, don't we? But also know there's a lot of pressure there on Rod. I saw on the Welling forum there's questions about his tenure at the minute. And it'd be interesting to see if any club does try and take a final gamble with 11, 12 games to go in terms of changing a manager. That'd be interesting. I think, I say, Bath probably escaping now, but they've got a very tough run in Bath. They've got some really hard games. I think they'll be enough. They'll be fine. And I say Salisbury could probably still catch that. As a poor defeat for Salisbury last night against Bath, wasn't it? They are not looking great in a minute. The only one I did have an eye on, Slough, until they picked up a win the other week, because they're dropping like a stone as well. And again, there's a lot of rumblings there, but I think they will just about have enough. But because of the points tallies, I think you're going to need quite a few points to stay up this season. And that's why it's so important you keep the momentum. Maybe not a win on Saturday, it'd be, at least a point. Brilliant.
Well, Enfield's 21st place, a top relegation place at the moment. That's 10 points behind Bath.
Yeah.
At this stage of the season, with a dozen games to go, I don't see Bath slipping up that much. Salisbury, they're only 4 points above Enfield and 5 above us. I think they're far more realistic. Do you two want to make predictions? I'll give you mine. We're not in it. I've actually gone for. I didn't know whether to go to Welling or Salisbury. I've gone for Welling. Enfield Town, Aveley, and Weymouth. Go on, Jake.
So I think it'll be Weymouth bottom, then Aveley, and then Enfield, and I'm going to say Salisbury, seeing as you went for Welling. Let's change it. Let's go for something slightly different.
Lee?
Yeah, I mean, Weymouth and Aveley, they're down. They're cooked. I would like to see Enfield stay up. Not at our expense, but got a quite close affinity to the directors and the chairman there. I want to see Welling go down just because it's a shit out and I don't want to go there anymore. Salisbury, I mean, yeah. All right. I mean, it's a nice day out. So I'm going to go Aveley, Weymouth, Enfield and Welling.
Enfield, your mates.
Yeah, but,
I think for anyone watching this, either opposition fans or Saints fans, they shouldn't take this as overconfidence from us. I think it's just blind optimism that we're going to have enough.
Well, we're not going to come onto our own podcast and say we're going to get down. 10 games to go. You're going to get lynched, mate.
Well, we've all gone for the same, except for Jake has put Salisbury in there instead of Welling. We shall see in a few weeks' time. All will become clear. Right. Before that, well, actually, end of talking about leagues for now. We've got another game next Tuesday. Potter's Bar, Hearts Senior Cup, isn't it?
Big game, big game.
Well, the Hearts Charity Cup's been slipped in there as well the following Tuesday, the day after we play at Chelmsford. The club hasn't announced it, of course. It's just suddenly appeared on the fixture list. It's like news for injuries. You don't get it. Club just doesn't like keeping players up to date, supporters up to date with news. Anyway, Potter's Bar then. How seriously we're going to take it? We are Hearts Senior Cup holders. It's always a good cup to win. It's only one extra game if we win that one. It's not a big burden on our running to trying to stay up. Hopefully, we're going to put our strongest side out.
I don't know if we will. Not with the game on Saturday as well. Weymouth after that. I think what we will see is quite a bit of rotation. I think a lot of the first teamers will probably have their standard training session on Tuesday night, and the rest will go off and contribute to Tuesday's game. I mean, if we go for a strong team, that's fine. The main thing is you just want to avoid any injuries, don't you? You know, the Clarence Park pitch is a bit heavy at the minute. That's always a risk. So, but, you know, I'm not, it's not the top of my priority list. What about you two?
Mate, absolutely. I'm gonna be drinking in the pubs from noon, boys. I'm well up for this now. Potter's Bar, but that's just a standard Tuesday, regardless whether it's a county cup match or not. I mean, I think this has got probably your likes of Paynes and your Ken Charleses all over it, isn't it? Really, just getting some minutes. I think Jake, you might go for a stint in goal, mate. I don't know if MJ wants to pass on his gloves to you just to give you a little bit of a run out.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's not any other keepers that are free agents about in Hertfordshire at the minute, so I think
you went there.
I can do a job. Yeah, that's a good point though. Actually, Lee, talk about players that do need fitness and are either coming back from injuries or aren't getting much game time. This is actually quite an important game for them, isn't it? Because who knows, an injury or two, and we will be relying on them in the final 11 games.
I mean, actually, it's a quarter-final, isn't it? Not a semi-final. Can't remember. Interest is waning. You mentioned MJ there. He had an interview in the programme last week celebrating his 150th game against Welling. Pity it was his 155th, but hey, 5 games, it's not bad, is it?
Hey,
maybe they were rounding it down.
That's ridiculous.
Dave, did Baz ever win the County Cup or Senior Cup with us? Just wondering, you know, it means a lot to him.
I don't
know. Good chat, Mr. Club Historian.
I've suddenly realised why they don't ask him.
Zane has now reached 300 games, so 16th player to get there. He's only 14 behind Baz. So if we have these runs in the 2 county cups, along with the league games, he can overtake him by the end of the season. He could be assistant manager in next season, couldn't he, Zane?
Not entirely sure you'll see Zane in the county cups. If I'm honest, given his form of late, that fella should be wrapped up in cotton wool, protected at all costs. I think.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yes. Right. Shall we make some predictions? Chippenham Town on Saturday. Hopefully the bugler won't be there. Right. I'll go first if you like, because I know you two like sitting on the fence. Apart from Lee's 4-0 last night rather.
It almost happened.
It almost did.
I said in the pub, Tabs, I said, if it's 4-0, everyone around the table, before they back to the Mermaid afterwards, I'm going to buy everyone a pint.
It didn't happen.
You didn't text me that, did you?
No.
Right. There's a pint of J2O. Go on then, Lee, Chippenham.
2-1 Saints.
I've gone 2-1 defeat. Okay, Jake.
I'm going to go 1-1.
Right. Jake, do you want to sit on the fence on Tuesday as well against Potter's Bar?
2-1 Saints, I guess.
Going for it. We beat them 2-1 in the Charity Cup final, didn't we? First game of the season when they were by far the best side. Lee?
4-1.
To whom?
You think we get one? Yeah.
Stop it. I'll
go for last night again, 3-0, because Clarence Park is turning into a fortress.
That Potters Bar Cup final at the start of the season feels like it could have been 10 years ago. So much has happened this season. I totally forgot we won a cup already this campaign. And that wasn't the greatest performance, was it? And I think that set the tone for the first few months of the season.
Yeah, we got away with it. No two ways about it.
Oh dear.
And next week, didn't they lose 8-0 at home?
Yeah, something like that. On Chippenham, team-wise, be interested to know if Reuben Wyatt features and why Reuben Wyatt. I know we discussed the media issues, but why was Reuben Wyatt meant to be recalled to Northampton and then suddenly wasn't? Did you hear anything, Dave?
The only thing I got last night, he was going back. Then if something along the lines were, "Where's there any chance that St Albans going to play you?" And obviously, you must have had a chat with them. And I think they said yes. So they said, "Well, we'll stay there another week then. We'll just see if we'll stay a week and see if they will play you." And of course, we did. We gave him. How long did we give him? That's the wrong sheet, Dave. That's not going to tell you anything. Try this book. We gave him 8 minutes. I mean, how much longer does he want?
Well, if he can score a goal in 8 minutes of that quality, it doesn't really matter, does it?
It's good. They didn't tackle him, but it was just a confidence, wasn't it? He knew where he was putting it. Beautiful.
Brilliant.
Tabs, you should have heard this, Herbert, earlier on the chat. It's Alfie Payne got an assist too for that goal.
He did.
Yeah, that 2-yard pass, mate, was instrumental. The end result of that curling shot into the top corner.
Hey, it worked. Come on. I did hear one whisper that Wyatt didn't go because potentially one of our other loanees has been recalled or has departed, but there's nothing solid behind that. So don't know what's going on there at the minute.
Ollie Davis.
Yeah, but
or he's in St Albans, one of the best cities in the entire planet. He goes, "Do you want to go back to Northampton?" No, okay, you stay here then, mate, because it's nicer.
Yeah. Or it could also be Ollie Davis is injured. So I mean, there is the limitation, isn't there, on what 5 or 6 in the squad for loans each game week. So there you go.
What you mean that news wasn't on Twitter or on the website? Good Lord,
Dave.
Twitter is just your sort of platform as well, isn't it, mate?
Hey.
people tell me about it, Lee.
Right. Is there anything else we want? Go on.
Yes, I've got one thing to finish. This week, Thursday, I was due to meet up with 3 former City managers: Peter Lawrence, Bob Murphy, and John Mitchell. Unfortunately, I got a phone call from Mitch last night, and he's in hospital at the moment. He's due to be discharged today. Bit of a health scare. But all looks well, and if he does get sent out today, hopefully we can reconvene at a later date. So just like to send all our best to Mitch and make a quick and full recovery.
The lengths people will go to not to meet up with you, Tabs, I think, it's just, get well soon, Mitch.
I mean, the Allisons were trying to hide from Dave last night, but they couldn't escape him.
They were. They were in good form, though. Yeah, they were on good form. Very, very chatty, but yeah.
They're brilliant, aren't they? They are good company.
Yeah. Oh, dear. Brilliant. Well, anything else, Lee? Or
I think no. I think we're done, mate.
Yeah, I think so as well. Well, thank you all very much for watching Podful of Saints on Twitter. Thanks for all the interaction. Brilliant from everyone in and out of the club. Superb. Email in the description below, and we'll speak to you all again next week after the Saints do some stuff in some league games and some cup games. Come on, you Saints. Goodbye, everyone.